this whole episode of Salman Rushdie has reinvigorated this curiosity around satanic verses. A lot of Muslims actually don't know about this. A lot of Muslims don't know that people know satanic verses is an abusive book written by Salman Rushdie, but they actually don't know what the actual satanic verses were. So let me give you a bit of a rundown on this. Prophet Muhammad. This is Life of Muhammad, the biography of Muhammad, page 165. This one, Nuria, you can read it properly? Okay. So they said, Muhammad, come, let us worship what you worship, and you worship what we worship. So they're trying to give an olive branch. So, and you might have heard Muslims say, oh, for you is your religion, for me is my religion. Yeah, Muslims say they deliberately present this out of context. So that's the context behind it. This is why it was said, now Muhammad, you got to remember, Muhammad is not in power at this point. These are Meccan verses, okay? So, and then it says, you and we will combine in the matter. So they're giving an olive branch. And I reckon these guys were really nice people. If what you worship is, instead of beheading Muhammad, they were like, let's offer some truce. If what you worship is better than what we worship, we will take a share of it. And if what we worship is better than what you worship, you can take a share of that. So God revealed concerning them, said, oh, disbelievers, I do not worship what you worship, and you do not worship what I worship, and I do not worship what you worship. And you do not worship what I worship.
So beautiful.
So beautiful. You have your religion and I have mine. So meaning, if you will only worship our Allah on condition that I also worship what you worship, then I have no need for you all. So that's the reason behind, for you is your religion and my religion. So anyway, now the apostle was actually anxious for the welfare of his people, wishing to attract them as far as he could. So it has been mentioned that he longed for a way to attract them. So basically, Muhammad, is like, oh, these are my people. How can I suck them into my religion? How can I get them to bend to my? You gotta remember,
they're holding on to their old ways, their ways of the ancestors.
You gotta remember, Muhammad at this point is not very popular. People are not taking him seriously. They're laughing at him. They're putting intestines on him. Yeah, Muhammad is so desperate for followers. So anyway, so it has been informed that he longed for a way to attract them, and the method he adopted is that Ibn Hamid told me that Salama, blah, 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 so-and-so told me from Yazid, blah, 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 Medina, from blah, blah, blah. When the apostle saw that his people turned their backs on him, so they were like, okay, well, if you're not going to come to a middle ground, then screw you. And he was pained by their estrangement from what he brought them from God. He longed that they should come to him from a God, a message that would reconcile his people. So basically, he's thinking, I should come up with something. Yeah, I got to come up with something. With something, okay? So because of his love for his people, because of his narcissism, and because of his my way or the highway, and his anxiety over them, it would delight him if the obstacle of oneness, Tawheed, of Allah.
God. The foundation of Islam, the very foundation.
Yes, that made his task so difficult could be removed, okay? So the Tawheed, the oneness, the Unitarianism of Islam, only if I could tweak it a little bit, get that out of the way.
Yeah.
So that he meditated on the project and longed for it, and it was dear to him. Then God sent down by the star when it sets your comrade is not deceived. He speaks not from his own desire. So, there's another quranic verse as well that says that, God. So first he sends that. Look, how stupid is that? Why did Allah send that at this very point when Allah knew that Muhammad is going to be fooled? So Muhammad is actually covering his backside. He's covering his bases. He's saying, hey, look, I don't say anything from my, out of my own self. I don't make up stuff.
Yeah, but how messed up is that when he literally is doing that whole thing and then he has the guts to say he speaks not from his own desire. It's all your literal desire to get out of this mess, mate.
And Nuria, and he's actually gonna say it himself. Look at it. And when he reached his words, have you thought of Alat and Al-Uzza and Manat? So he knew that people might have some sort of a reaction. So he covers his backside and he says, hey, look, I'm not speaking from my own desires. When it is his desire that, these Meccans are not bending to his will, and they're not, agreeing with his terms. So he said, have you thought of Allat and Al-Uzza and Manat, the third, the other? These verses still exist, by the way. Let me show you those verses. These verses are, this one.
They're literally part of the Quran.
Chapter 53, verse 19. Have you considered about the idols of, this is in the bracket, about Allat and Uzza, and about the other one, namely Manat? So this is what's come after
Allah's
Muhammad has said,
daughters.
is that you have males and he has females. So that got changed. Okay, there was one more verse in between, and we're going to find out through Ibn Ishaq. So he first lays his foundation. He says that I don't make stuff up myself, okay? Because he knew that once he involves these goddesses, people are going to say, what happened to the oneness? What happened to the method, the message of one God? So let's come back to it. So he said, have you thought of Allat and Al-Uzza al-Manat, the third, the other? Satan, here comes the Satan. Satan, when he was meditating upon it. So he was listening, he was eavesdropping. He was like, okay, now I have a chance to, misguide and derail Muhammad. So Satan, when he was meditating upon it and desiring to bring reconciliation to his people, put upon his tongue, meaning the tongue of Muhammad, these are the exalted quranic whose intercession is approved. Now that is the satanic verse.
Yep.
That these are the exalted.
Whose intercession is approved. You can pray to them, not just Allah, Allah's daughters. You can pray to. The biggest sin in Islam has been committed by the Prophet himself.
So when Quraysh heard that, they're like, voila, now we have, found that middle ground that we asked for. So when Quraysh heard that, they were delighted and greatly pleased at the way in which he spoke of their goddesses, and they listened to him. Now, while the believers were holding that what their prophet brought them from their Lord was true, not suspecting a mistake or a vain desire or a slip. Look at this, so that because Muhammad has already had this verse of convenience that, hey, look, I don't make up stuff, okay? Whatever comes out of my mouth, it's coming from Allah. He emphasized on that. And isn't that amazing? Allah gave that revelation just before Allah knew that Satan is going to do this.
Yeah. The omnipotent, omniscient Allah.
Omniscience, yes. Yeah. The all-knowing. And when he reached the prostration, so they even prayed. They even bent their head. And the end of the surah in which he prostrated himself, the Muslims.
And Haris, no angels, not the archangel Gabriel, no Barak, nothing flew in and interceded and did damage control in this situation.
He does, but too little, too late. But anyway,
too late.
So others who were in the mosque prostrated when they heard the mention of their gods, so that everyone in the mosque, believer and unbeliever, prostrated. So everyone. So what happened to those gods? Or what happened to all these Muslims who prostrated before these three goddesses? Except Al-Walid bin Al-Mughira, who was an old man. So he defied Muhammad, who could not do so. So he was like, see this Walid Al-Mughira.
He's still doing it. He's still doing it. He's just old, so he couldn't bend. He couldn't prostrate. He's frustrating in his way. Look.
Oh, right. Okay, I thought he was doing it out of. Okay, I thought.
No. He's not like the one guy in the picture that didn't do the Nazi salute. He's not that guy.
Yeah, or he ain't no. Okay, all right. Sorry, I take that back. So he took a handful of dirt from the valley and bent over it. Then the people dispersed and Quraysh went out. Now everyone's happy. They're like, "Yep, Muhammad has gotten the revelation. Allah has three daughters, blah, blah, blah." Delighted at what had been said about their God, saying, Muhammad has spoken of our gods in a splendid fashion. He alleged in what he read that they are the exalted quranic whose intercession is approved. Boom! So now the news reached the Prophet's companions who were in Abyssinia. It being reported that, and some people say this was mainly Umar who protested the most. It being reported, I think in Tabri it said that. It being reported
he must
that
have
Quraysh,
talked, right? He knows how this is Muhammad shooting himself in the foot.
Yeah, he's like, man, you've been telling me about Tawheed.
That place of prayer, because it was Umar, you've been talking about Tawheed and establishing the place of prayer, that saying that Abraham first built the Kaaba and kind of localized. So all of this connection that they've made to Abraham and the like being descendants of Ishmael go back to the Abrahamic faiths, which at that point were claiming monotheism in a truer form, especially like the non-Gnostic ones. So Muhammad has severely messed up.
Yeah. So anyway, I think Umar or Uthman or whoever, and they said, being reported that Quraysh had accepted Islam, so some men started to return while others remained behind. Then Gabriel comes to the apostle and says, "Oh, Muhammad, what have you done?"
Gabriel, were you held up in traffic or what, mate? Why is it taking you so long?
He stopped for a drive-through.
He did. Maybe he stopped to punch the Barack in the face a few more times.
Yeah, so he goes, "You have read to these people something that I did not bring you from God, and you have said what he did not say to you." So the apostle is like, and obviously it's Umar and all these other guys are heckling him. He's like, "Mate, what have you done?" So then Muhammad says, "Ooh, I can't pull this one over them. I can't fool. I've gotten away, and I will get away with a lot of stuff in the future, such as telling them, hey, adopted sons are not sons. I can bang my wife's maid. I can do all of that. I can marry a 9-year-old girl. I can fool a lot of people, but not in this one. This one, nah, they ain't buying it, because that was a central claim against the Jews and against Trinity.
Exactly, saying that the Jews have started worshipping Ezra as their God, and exactly the Christian Bible is corrupted because they've taken Jesus to be the Son of God. So they're trying to distance themselves as much as possible from these claims. So Muhammad has literally landed himself in a massive pit. But also, what was I going to say? Can you just imagine? I'm just trying to put myself into Muhammad's shoes in this instance. Like, if Umar was in fact in Abyssinia, like modern day Ethiopia at that time, Muhammad is obviously like there alone, like knocking about with these Qurayshis, and he's like, how do I just do damage control for this? Like, there's not Umar here who's like, like kind of like just like telling me stuff to do and just provoking, and there's not people I need to answer to. Let me take care of the situation by myself. And when he tried to, he's landed himself in so much trouble. Like, he told them exactly what they wanted to hear, so they're all dancing about happy, and he's just getting scolded now from the people. It's like, when your parents are away, or like other authority figures are away, and you're like, oh, let me just try and like take care of the situation and no one will know. Yeah. He's getting slated now. Because Umar was very much in his ear for all of this.
I think in Tabri, Umar did come to him. I think he when he had returned. I could be wrong. I think that was in Tabri, so I didn't really include that, because regardless whether he was there or he wasn't there, Muhammad's trying to do the damage control himself. So he says, and Gabriel comes and says, "Now, what have you done, Muhammad? Have you read to these people that I did not bring you from God, and you have said what he did not say to you." So the apostle was bitterly grieved and was greatly in fear of God. So God sent down a revelation, and for he was merciful to him. And look what he said. So what's the revelation after that? So and as I said, we don't see this verse anymore, the intercession one. This is the Satanic verse, and I think it was Joanne too. But anyway, so this is what God says. "We did not send any messenger before you, nor a prophet, but he faced a situation when he recited the revelation," meaning all your past prophets used to, want to win the good wishes of their local people. They wanted to save them, etc. So, so there's not, so Allah just quickly just, glosses over it and it's like, oh, no big deal. No big deal.
Muhammad's not defective. Yeah. All the other prophets, this also happened to them. Don't worry, Muhammad is not defective as a prophet.
Muhammad, you're very clever, Muhammad. He covers all these.
Very clever. Cheeky so-and-so.
So anyway, so he goes, "The Satan casts doubts in the hearts of his opponents." So obviously, these messengers, prophets being opponents, about what he recited. So Allah nullifies what the Satan casts. Then Allah makes his verses firm, and Allah is all-knowing, all-wise.
Well, you're not all-knowing, Allah, because you weren't to know that Satan would like misinterpret your words and put them into the prophet's mouth for him to say, and he's committed the gravest sin you can according to your own final religion that you've perfected.
Shirk is the single biggest,
and hence all the hate towards polytheists and idol worshippers, and it all harks back to Muhammad destroying the 360 idols in the Kaaba. This is how much of a hateful like way of thinking Islam, like anything to do with idols, is the gravest sin. So Muhammad just saying, oh yeah, add your 3 and that's not a problem.
Yeah,
it is but Horace, this is what's interesting, and that's why I made a point to like kind of tweet about the relevance from not just a fictional perspective of Salman Rushdie's book, but the actual historical incident that took place within Islam itself, as documented by their own, like, biographers and historians. So when I was, I've also made a video about this, which is one of the major red flags as to why the Quran is imperfect and not divine and not the word of God. So if you look at my video, like the 3 red flags in the Quran, I actually go into this incident in quite a lot of detail and try and explain what the quranic was, and they're these like crane type birds, but why they were like poignant to the Quraysh tribe. But also it was just generally out of my own curiosity, because when I was a Muslim, all I had heard growing up in the UK was that the Salman Rushdie, it was almost considered just like the Rushdie affair. People would talk about it and say there was this book which, like put Islam in a very bad light. But not once was I taught that the satanic verses were part and parcel of the Quran, and then there's actual history behind it and what it means. So even that bit, that's why I say there has been a sustained and concerted effort to keep this out of the general like theological domain where people talk about things. We can discuss Aisha's age till the cows come home, but satanic verses, it's almost like Muslims or Muslim scholars feel like, oh, that's something that we counted like 20 years ago and it's all just fake, and none of that, we don't believe any of that. And they think that they can just say that and the world will move on from it. That's why I'm so glad now with Salman Rushdie's like health improving, at the wider world waking up to, who is this man? What did he do? Who's coming after him all these decades later? And okay, what he's saying must have some like triggering elements behind it. And then to go and latch that into history, Islam is crashing on itself. So it's great.
Yeah. By the way, that's the video that Nuria is talking about. It's a wonderful video. It was one of her first videos, very well edited. Go do check it out, and she does go in a little bit more detail. Allah is gender non-binary, and he goes by the pronoun we. Yeah, I know. I mean, modern day transgenders are much cleverer than Allah. At least those guys have come up with their own pronoun. Allah could have easily come out with his own pronoun, but he didn't. He didn't think of Muhammad wasn't up to scratch.
And Muslims are so homophobic and transphobic and against any of this that they say that even that we is actually a he, but it's the royal we that's attributed to something that is so, above
and there's another argument to be made. Just digressing, there's another argument to be made. In some places, Allah mentions himself as we. In other places, Allah calls himself in third person, which is like whatever method you adopt, you actually go by that. That's just a standard if you want to talk about the beauty of literature. I mean, I can't, in my book, sometimes I call myself I, sometimes I call myself we, and sometimes I refer to myself in third person. You'd be like, what the hell, this guy's just, what is it? Is he bipolar?
Especially when he chooses like Lord of the Worlds and like Lord of the Lords, and you're like, oh, there's others then. What who are you?
Yeah. So anyway, so those of you guys so let's just go through these Quranic verses, though, by the way. So these are the verses 53:19. Have you considered about the lots, about Lat and Uzza and Manat, the third one, and then this verse replaces it, how conveniently, the intercession one. It goes to, is that you have males and Allah has females?
There's Islamic misogyny seeping in. How dare you have goddesses?
You want sons for yourself, but you're giving females to us?
Don't shortchange me with females. Gosh. We are Muslims. We hate women.
Yeah, exactly. But then when he gets caught, this is this verse 53:23. So this is not just Ibn Hisham or Ibn Ishaq version that I showed you these pages earlier. You can confirm that from Ibn Kathir. when he spoke the shaitan threw some falsehood into his speech, but Allah abolished that which the shaitan threw in, meaning that intercession verse. So Ibn Kathir gives the same opinion. When he spoke the shaitan through some falsehood, and Mujahid says, so multiple references. And it's not only just Ibn Kathir. Al-Jalalain says the same thing. We did not send before you any messenger, Rasul. There's a prophet who has been commanded to deliver a message of prophet. One who has not been commanded to deliver anything but blah, 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 blah. So after reciting the following, where is this one? Intercession one. But which those to whom the prophet had been sent would find pleasing. The prophet had, during an assembly of the men Quraysh, after reciting the following verses from Surah Al-Najm, have you considered Lat and Uzza and Manat, the third one, added as a result of Satan casting them. So there you go, onto his tongue without the prophet being aware of it. Oh, how silly. So this is problematic. Without prophet being aware of it. So the question is, how many would Allah, how do we know that Muhammad was unaware, that whether that's Gabriel or Shaitan or Satan masquerading or impersonating Gabriel? That's a big question mark. Being aware of it. The following words, those are the high-flying cranes, Al-Gharniq, Al-Ula, and indeed the intercession is to be hoped for. That was the satanic verse. I think it was in 2. So it was 1 here, up to crane, and then indeed the intercession is to be hoped for. So there are 2 verses. And so the men of Christ. So anyway, so Al-Jalalain says the same thing. Ibn Kathir says the same thing, that this is exactly what happened. So your prophet, so satanic verses is real. And this is what Salman Rushdie did. He highlighted that issue. And Muslims didn't want it to come to surface, but well, thanks to the stupidity of that brain dead zombie, satanic verses is gonna sell like hotcakes, and more and more people are gonna be aware, and they're gonna become aware of this issue, and more people are gonna become aware of the forbidden word, ex-Muslims.
Yeah. And even just from like just an interesting perspective, like theologically, why it's also damaging is because, like in Kaaba, in Mecca, in like the area around the Kaabas, because even Kaabas predate Islam, so it just lends itself to how unmonotheistic Islam's origins were, because one of the chief gods of Mecca and the Quraysh was La. And then La had three daughters, Al-Lat, Al-Manat, and Al-Uzza, and even Muhammad's supposed father, who Muslims claim, Abdullah, was literally Abdul, which means slave of La, right? So he was a slave of La, the chief god. And it's almost like when Muhammad's come up with this Allah monotheistic god, he's combined the initial chief god with a couple of the daughters, kind of, what's that word? Anthropomorphized all 3 of them into one thingy and made it Allah. Yes,
anthropomorphize,
yeah, into Allah. So again, it's almost like all of that paganism that was around Quraysh and what they initially believed in has kind of all just been squished together and presented to you now as Islam, with Allah being the sole deity. Yeah.
That's the satanic verses basically in a nutshell. And as I say, you can go to just put holy humanist red flags of Islam, or 3 red flags of Islam,
or even holy humanist satanic verses, and it will come up.
When Muhammad said, when he was about to reveal these satanic verses, he said he conveniently got a verse from Allah saying that Muhammad never makes up anything himself. I think he got that. He did that. So if it falls back on him, he can say Satan did it. Because Allah has already has already testified that Muhammad doesn't make up stuff. So even if you hear something wrong from him, which you may, that is because Satan whispered in his ear, not him.
And it's not just Muhammad that's afflicted with this. Every prophet he claims to be the last one of, they've all gone through it. So no need to panic. Fine. No need to doubt his authenticity. Under control. He's still the Messiah.
This is it's so freaking obvious, as David Wood says. The most obvious false prophet in history.
Honestly.
Well, I think he doesn't know Mirza Ghulam Qadiani.
True. True.
Yeah. All right. There are holes in the standard narrative. That
Holes
was, although that was said in
the narrative.
But the
Indeed,
problem here is,
yeah.
But the problem, it's the same issue with the different versions of the Quran, that Yasin al-Qadi said that we like to keep it hidden. It's like a secret society. It's like a secret, just only a handful of scholars have kept it to themselves for nearly 1400 years. But the idiots didn't realize that when they were digitizing these texts and putting it out there, like there's Life of Muhammad, his biography, 7 books of Hadith on Sunnah.
Putting all Bukhari. Yes, thank you for Sunnah.com. Thank you for Quran.com. Thank you for biographies of Muhammad. We cannot thank you enough.
There's still so many books, and I'm going to share that with you in Urdu, and I'm going to translate that. There's still in a lot of these books are still in Arabic, and they haven't even been translated to Urdu or fiqh books. So I've got the fiqh,
and
book.
Even the ones that have. I was just going to say, the ones that have been translated, for example, into Urdu and into English and stuff, they're translated on a basis of priority and what they think is really required to like govern legislation or carry out hudud punishments or whatever. So it's done on a priority and need to know basis. So I would not be surprised how many books are still in the woodworks that need to come out and be translated.
Yeah. Oh, there's just loads, especially the fiqh books. I think Yasir Wajdi, Mufti Yasir Wajdi, made a mistake when he taunted me. He said, "Harris, you've only read some pamphlets on." He was quoting me, and that was a bad. I should have used a better word, but anyway. But it doesn't matter. He said, "You've only read some pamphlets on fiqh," and I told him, I said, "Well, fear the day when I start reading your fiqh books, because I know the amount of crap that I'm going to find, and every day we find some gems of ridicule."
That is not going to make for easy or pleasant reading, but wow, the world needs to know what's in there.
No, but Nuria, but the funny thing is, these idiots have made search function available in those PDFs as well. you could just search
brilliant
sex,
stuff,
intercourse, concubine, bandi, londi, these kind of words, the keywords. And the amount of crap that just comes. I'm not interested in, how many rakats are in the prayer. I'm not interested in that. Screw you. What is that going to do?
Let's get to the meaty things. Let's get to how you treat slaves. Let's get to how you prescribe sex. How do you punish people? Yeah,
exactly. Or how you wipe your bottom.
And what you can insert in it to not break your fast. And
Imam Ghazali, Nuria, Imam Ghazali has gone in so much detail, and I think I'll read it, and it'll be very difficult. He even tells you how to, move the rock and in which direction you need to move your rock when you're wiping your bottom.
What, like clockwise or counterclockwise, and how many? Oh, for goodness sakes! I mean, it's no surprise, right, that they weren't there, like coming up with the Pythagoras theorem or anything like that, because you need to. You're more worried about the rotations up there.
How do
down there?
It actually says it. It actually tells you first go from back to front, and then it says second time go from front to back.
Oh, please give me a break now.
And if you have achieved the desired cleanliness within 2 rocks, then just use the third one. Just use it, because Prophet preferred 3
because we the number 3 in Islam is sacred. The Prophet had a thing for the number 3.
Yeah, odd numbers, he said. So anyway.
Odd numbers, yeah.
To help me produce more videos like these, support me on Patreon or PayPal.